We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a load of money.
Welcome to the Money Tree Show, where we bring you high-level multifamily investors as well as industry-leading experts. We tease out the skills they've acquired, the habits, and the mindset they've developed to make them ultra-successful in the real estate space. It is our goal to give you the knowledge you need to either start your multifamily journey or expand your current portfolio. Whether you're an active investor or looking for a passive investment to supplement your income, this is the podcast for you. All right, welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you coming on. We're excited to have you on the Money Tree Show. On this show, we talk about financial freedom for W-2 employees as well as full-time real estate investors. How you doing today?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's good to hear. So a little bit on the background. Can you tell us how you got into real estate and, what led you into real estate and how you, began your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I was, like a lot of folks, working that W-2 and this actually from the UK originally and moved to the States with a previous employer. And honestly, it was a case of getting a pretty big tax refund back in 2016 now. I sold a house, primarily in the UK, and had a decent amount from that and quite a big tax credit. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever really received a chunk of capital that was not my monthly paycheck. So I'm like, what do I do with this? My initial was, kind of thought was, well, maybe I'll buy a cool car or something silly. That I actually started to research, how do smart people invest their money, right? And real estate just kept coming up time and time again. So that, I guess, was the initial step was that. And then, well, what kind of real estate, should I buy? And I, like a lot of folks, got into the bigger pockets world for a long time, and decided multifamily was going to be the vehicle for me. And it was more of a hobby at that point. I basically bought my first quadplex in Clearwater, just north of here. I'm in Sarasota, it's about an hour north. And it was a mid-70s alt 2-1s owned by a out-of-state investor who was completely checked out. Used my residential agent, basically locked that up in 2017. And that was kind of the light bulb moment. Really was that deal. The next deal I did while I was still working was a 3-unit, which actually I just sold last October. So I've got some 1031 funds from that. Then I ended up getting into, after I did a cash out refinance on that 4-unit, I understood that had it been a 5-unit, it would have been worth significantly more because of the value, income approach on the appraisal. So that's when I decided that perhaps I should be going into commercial multifamily, and connected with some folks from a boot camp in Tampa back in 2019. And we took down a 59-unit actually back then as a syndication without really any formal training other than what, some of bootstraps stuff that I had done myself and the podcasts. So that was an experience to say the least. But from there, I joined, the mentorship program in 2020 and done quite a few deals since then. So yeah, I was able to exit my W-2, summer of 2020. And we now, I do real estate full time. So.
Awesome. Matt, that's an incredible journey for someone to go from working a W-2 job to buying your first fourplex, making it all the way to how many units did you say you had purchased through your journey so far?
142.
142 units. This is doing it part-time for a big chunk of it, and then finally becoming financially free, making money through real estate. Was there an inflection point or a moment in time where you're like, wow, I need to go full-time into this. I need to leave my W-2 job where I'm making money. It's guaranteed. It's a steady paycheck coming into. I can make more and can have the lifestyle that I want through financial freedom. What was that moment like? And just describe it to our audience.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That brings back quite a lot of memories when you kind of said that. So it would have been in 2019, we went through a new management structure with my employer. I was up in New Jersey at a mandatory meeting, and there was some structural changes happening with our territories. I was a regional field engineer, so I was responsible for the Southeast Territory, and they decided they were going to add some additional stores to my territory for really no increase in benefit whatsoever. With that came additional targets, and then COVID came, and they were like, well, that doesn't really, that shouldn't impact business at all. Your targets are not getting changed. So I do remember that pivotal moment, actually clearly sitting in a meeting room up there when they were presenting this to me. And, I made that decision on the spot in my mind. I'm like, all right, I'm out. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to switch full time to real estate. That's the way to go.
Yeah, I'm sure pandemic. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, Matt, from knowing you, I know a little bit of your journey and have had the pleasure of chatting with you at several different events and meetups and conferences throughout the last year or so. Can you share with our audience a little bit about what you did with your time during COVID? Because you have actually a really cool story there that I just think is very unique. Not everyone gets that opportunity.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of build upon what I just said there. So that was in March of 2020 when that meeting occurred. I put my notice in June. I actually gave him 3 months. And then we decided we were going to rent our private home for a year. And we bought a RV. And myself, my wife, we at that time our kids were 4 and 2 young girls. We hit the road, and we had no set plan other than we wanted to get to the Pacific Northwest. We already had a truck, so we bought a trailer to tow, and we hit the road. We ended up getting to Washington State in about 6 months or so. We spent the winter there, and then a year came around, and we were nowhere near done. We'd only made it to, well, we did a lot. We got to Colorado, but we had a lot of stuff we still wanted to see. We wanted to check out the Northeast, so we rented our house for another year and did basically 2 full years on the road. Joined the coaching program while I was traveling, and closed, I want to say, 3 deals, in that period as well. So it's totally doable to do this business on the road. The only challenge, I suppose, is when you're doing what we did, you want to see so much stuff and take in the experience, and because you're seeing neat things every day. It's got to be quite disciplined, I suppose, to know when to stop doing that and knuckle down on getting the business scaled up as well. So that was probably the tricky part versus living in a regular house like I do now.
Right on. That's amazing. So I'm curious, because I know a lot of people say when you start in real estate, your backyard, if you could, is always best, right? But you are like closing deals in an RV, cruising around the country. Like, can you, give us a little, maybe a little detail on the mindset you had to really be able to jump in and do that, and then also the mechanics, how were you able to make that work and, do it from afar, and how you met the people that you met that were the boots in the ground? Like, just give us a little background. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, totally. Well, luckily, I already had a pretty solid grasp on my home market. Before I left, I'd been investing in Tampa Bay since, 2017. So I already had that, kind of 3+ year experience. So when a property would come up on market, I would normally know the area pretty well. So that's a huge benefit right there. And then in terms of actually getting to the property to tour it, for the most part, back when I started, I would tour every property before I put an offer in. I don't do that anymore. I don't think that's smart for anyone to necessarily do that unless you're kind of getting started, because it's the numbers game in this business. You'd be putting offers in normally, without seeing it ahead of time. So that was super helpful. And then in the event, we got to a point where a LOI was accepted. Yeah, I would either drive or fly to the asset. So I do remember a property in Fort Myers that I got in contract when we were traveling through the middle of Kansas, and I needed to quickly sort of park the rig. And I said to my wife, hey, I just got to fly down back to Florida for a couple of days to check out this property and do the inspections. And it was a quick, in and out in a sort of a day and a half, 1 night hotel. and it checked out really well. And then honestly, I didn't need to go back and again until we closed and met the PM and all that stuff. So it's very doable, but I think you have to have a good handle on the market you're in, and sort of have that comfort level of where the asset's located. Google Maps only gets you so far.
Awesome.
Matt, do you have is your portfolio pretty much in the Florida area, or are you elsewhere? Have you created partnerships along the way? I mean, we know that real estate investing, the more and more you get into real estate investing, one of the things you'll find out is, hey, this is a team sport. You can't do it alone. You got to bring in other people typically. You don't have to, but if you really want to grow and go big, that's one of the best ways to do it. So is there anything there in terms of partnerships you created? And then can you share with some of the characteristics and so forth that you look in either a partner or whether they bring the deal, or share a little bit there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say the bulk of my portfolio is in Southwest Florida. I focus pretty much from Fort Myers up to North Tampa and across to sort of Lakeland, that kind of triangle. I do have some assets in East Tennessee as well, mainly because we have a second home in Smoky Mountains. So that's an area we go to sort of 4 times a year or so. I'm actually going up there next week to tour a property and we have a short-term rental there. So that's my secondary market. I have got some JV deals that I've met through our coaching program that I did in 2021 and 2022, actually. So we have a JV deal in North Florida, in Gainesville, which is not a market I was typically focused in, but I connected with a good friend and partner of mine through the community, and we decided we'd work together on that one. And a similar situation happened on a deal actually in Mobile, Alabama, in early 2022. That was a 24 unit, and that was just from kind of meetups and networking with other investors, and we found some synergies. And I think that's where it's very important to continue to network in this business, and find people that you jive with well and you want to partner with, and you can continue to scale with in most cases. So that's worked pretty well for me. And in fact, the last 3 deals I've done have all been joint venture deals. And there's a deal I'm in contract on right now in Central Florida, which is potentially going to be a JV. We're kind of right at that point of where it may be a syndication, depending on the capital stack. But yeah, so it's just the way things have worked out.
Nice. That's as far as what would you say is like your you don't even think of your best deal, but what's a deal that you feel like if you could take us from start to finish, meeting the partners, a little brief thing on how you met the partners, because that's such a big part of this industry, right? It's just meeting good people that you see eye to eye with and that you could do a deal with, because you're married to that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like once you get into that deal, you got a 5 to 7 year, maybe longer, lifetime marriage. So, how'd you meet your partners, and then how'd the deal work out? And if you wouldn't mind sharing some numbers on maybe, the end result would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you're right. No, partnerships are very, very important, because you are in these deals for, many years, and especially on a JV side, a syndication, you may be exiting that in 5 years or less, but a JV can often be double that. The one we're looking at right now is a 5-year seller finance, and we'll probably hold for another 5 after that. So you think about, that's a 10-year relationship right there you're going into. So actually, we had a meeting last night with some potential JV partners on this, who I've known for a number of years. I've not been partnered with them before, with the exception of we had some involvement with some money raising back a couple of years ago, but we've not had that sort of closeness in terms of working on a deal like this. So the timing's pretty good, because it's kind of fresh in my mind of how to figure out, well, I can get on with this person pretty well, but is it my other partner that's in this deal? How are they going to get on with this other partner? So you have to think about that a little bit as well. And do your skill sets complement one another? Are you too similar? Are you going to be overlapping on the jobs at hand? Because you definitely don't want that either. You don't want to be too similar. So for me, I've positioned myself as sort of on the front end, lead acquisitions. I'm the deal finder. I bring the team together. I have no interest in doing the asset management. I know how to do it, but I don't really have that. That's not it's not something I'm I'm focused on doing, because I want that flexibility to be able to do a little bit more travel and perhaps, spend more time with, in Europe, just where my family live. So things like that, it just doesn't work for my schedule. And then capital wise, having, from a syndication standpoint, knowing who's perhaps, strong in that area is also key. Underwriting, another huge factor, having someone on the team for the analytical, someone who's good with working with contractors and PMs. That's another factor. So if you break it down, there's really not that many jobs to this business. Is probably, I like to cap our JVs at around 5 GPs. That I feel like is a good sweet spot to not have too many cooks in the kitchen. I think if you've got more than that, then you might as well syndicate it, honestly. So that's always been my sort of, threshold, I guess.
Makes sense.
Matt, you've been incredibly successful, and it's kind of cool to see how your journey has evolved from, an engineer to where you are today with over 140 units that you bought. Success certainly leaves clues. If you look at like the most successful people, there's habits and rituals that you can find that they're always implementing that has enabled their success. Can you share with us in our audience a little bit about whether you have any daily or weekly habits and rituals that you participate in that have enabled your success?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I've been doing for a while now is I do something called the 3 wins habit. So every evening before I go to bed, I'll note down my 3 wins that I've had for the day. And they don't need to be all to stay focused. They could be, I knocked out a 10-mile run, or, I underwrote 2 deals, whatever it is. And you don't want to make it too long a list. 3 is plenty. And this, by the way, is a habit that I got from the Gap in the Gain book, which I highly recommend. And then you also will note down what your wins are going to be for the following day. So you do both of that the night before. And then the next day, there's your 3 tasks basically for the day already in front of you. And you don't have to think about it. It's already been, decided the night before. And honestly, that's been pretty impactful on my progress, honestly, since I've started doing that. And it doesn't take very long. It's like 2 minutes a night just to do that. The other habit that I've started to do is turning my phone off or on airplane mode around 30 minutes before I go to bed. That just allows me to sleep better. And then I'll try not to look at the thing for at least 30 minutes first thing in the morning, just so I can get my head, in a good state, I also exercise a lot. I do usually try to exercise like 3 times a week. I hope that helps me, kind of stay focused. And
nice. The 3 wins. I wrote that one down. I feel like us overachievers, the one thing we got going for us is we love to beat ourselves up and think we're not doing enough. So the 3 wins is great. I think that's gold right there. You mentioned Gap in the Gain, which is, I haven't read, but I've heard great things about that book. Is there any other books, resources, podcasts, anything that you like to, keep current, in the real estate world, or just things that you're looking to, it doesn't have to be real estate, just to prove on? Is there any books you recommend or podcasts you like to listen to? Yeah,
definitely. I think the most impactful book that got me into the game, I guess, was the book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner, back all those years ago.
Yeah.
That gave me such I think, because I did everything back then. I was doing the contracting work. I was doing working with the PM. I was dealing with the tenants. So I self-managed at first, and then that gave me the experience to find a good PM. And it was just such a excellent overall book on just getting started. So I feel like I do need to recommend that book. It's clearly a more of a beginner book, but for folks getting started, it's one of the best ones out there. In terms of podcasts, I listen to Michael Blanc quite a lot. I feel like he has a really good finger on the pulse of where we are in the market. His co-host Garrett is really strong on the underwriting piece and what's happening in the market. So I certainly get a lot of value from them. Another local syndicator here in Southwest Florida is the Lifetime Cash Flow podcast by Rod Cleef. He does a pretty good job of bringing in good resources, and again a real go-giver in the community as well. So I get a lot of value out of listening to him, and honestly he's been quite pivotal as well in my education.
I can second that. Brandon Turner book. That was a really helpful book in getting me started. That's really where the rubber meets the road when you're first starting and you're trying to learn what to do. There's a lot of free resources that came with that, and ideas and advice that was just gold. So I can second that book as well, Matt. This is the Money Tree Show, where we teach people how to build passive streams of income. What advice do you have for an individual that's sitting on the sidelines? Say they got 50, 60K, they want to put it into a deal, but they're held back by fear. What's your advice to them?
Yeah, well, fear is usually a cause of not having all the information in their hand, right? In other words, they're not educated on the business that they're thinking of getting into, and perhaps they haven't even defined what that criteria looks like for what they want to invest in. So I think that's the main thing, is getting educated on the business, understanding what makes this a good deal in the first place. How do I know this operator that I'm planning on investing my money in is experienced, is a good custodian of my hard-earned money? And once you've, I think, understood that, and you can have a grasp probably on some, intermediate underwriting, so you can kind of just take a look at the deal and understand that business plan, then you really shouldn't have any more fear. It's then just a case of, making the decision to do it.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, the three of us have had many conversations together at different meetups. And that's the one thing I love about this podcast. I actually get to hear more about you. And, I didn't realize you were such a baller, man. You're crushing it out there. So congratulations on all your success.
I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. No, right back at you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, what's the best way, thank you for coming on. What's the best way for people if they want to reach out to you? You have, Facebook or Instagram, or what's your go-to as far as contacts concerned?
Yeah, email or phone is probably best. You can reach me at Matthew, 2 T's. So Matthew at rightmoveproperties.net. Or you can text or even call me at 941-504-0548. I'm also on Facebook as Matt Dunn, and LinkedIn as Matthew Dunn.
Awesome. Great. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to The Money Tree Show. We hope to inspire you to achieve financial freedom. To see a sample real estate deal, head over to www.themoneytreeshow.com.